Assalamu alaikum and good day everyone. I am Conding, Sittie Salamah M, reporter from Chapter 8, and I am with Ampuan, Nurhannah B, and Sarip, Rishmin M. Chapter 8, How Plants Survive. So let's proceed to Lesson 8.1, Plant Form and Function. Hierarchy of Cellular Architecture of Living Organisms. So the first one is at the lowest level are cells. Example of these are the parenchyma, sclerenchyma, and the vessel elements. Second, cells are organized together to form tissues. Examples are the xylem and the phloem. Third, tissues are organized together to form organs. Two or more tissues performing specific functions. Examples are the leaves and the stamens. And the last one, organs are organized together to form organ systems. Examples are the flowers and the shoots. Plant cells in tissues. A mature vascular plant contains several types of differentiated cells. These are grouped together in tissues. Some tissues contain only one type of cell, some consist of several. So the first one is the meristematic tissues. Ito yung main function ng mitosis. The cells are small, thin-walled with no central vacuole and no specialized features. Nakalocate ito sa growing points ng roots at stems. Next, protective tissues. Cover the surface of leaves and the living cells of roots and stems. Each cells are flattened with their top and bottom surfaces of parallel. Ang upper and lower part ng epidermis ng isang leaf ay example ng protective tissue. Next is the parenchyma cells. Large, thin-walled, and usually have large central vacuole. They are often partially separated from each other and are usually stuffed with plastids. In areas not exposed to light, colorless plastids predominate and food storage is the main function. Next is the sclerenchyma. The walls of these cells are very thick and built up in a uniform layer around the entire margin of the cell. Often the cells dies after its all wall was fully formed. Sclerenchyma ay nagbibigay ng mechanical supports to other cells types. Next is the collenchyma cells. Have thick walls that are especially thick at their corners. These cells provide mechanical support sa plant. They are found in areas that are growing rapidly and need to be strengthened. The petiole of leaves is usually reinforced with collenchyma. Next is the xylem. Xylem conducts water and dissolved minerals from the roots to all the other parts of the plants. These are thick-walled tubes that can extend vertically through several feet of xylem tissues. Nagbibigay ito ng strength sa trunk. And the last one is the phloem. Phloem transports sugars from one part to another. It is made of sieve tube elements and companion cells. So this is feature of companion cell and sieve tube. So let's move on to plant organ systems. In plants, just as in animals, similar cells working together form a tissue. When different types of tissues work together to perform a unique function, they form an organ. Organs working together form organ systems. Vascular plants have two distinct organ systems, ang shoot system at ang root system. The shoot system consists of two portions, the vegetative parts of the plant such as the leaves and the stems, and the reproductive parts of the plant which include flowers and the fruits. The shoot system generally grows above ground, where it absorbs the light needed for photosynthesis. The root system which supports the plants and absorbs water and minerals. is usually underground. So first is the shoot system. The vegetative part, number 1, leaf. Leaf is an organ of a vascular plant and is the principal lateral appendage of the stem. The plant leaf is an organ whose shape promotes efficient gathering of light for photosynthesis. The form of the leaf must also be balanced against the fact that most of the loss of water a plant might suffer is going to occur at its leaves. Leaves are extremely variable in terms of their size, shape, and adornments. Although the leaves of most plants carry out the same basic functions, there is nonetheless an amazing variety of leaf sizes, shapes, margin types, forms of attachment, ornamentation, and color. So there are parts of a leaf. The first one is the apex, the tip of the blade o yung tip ng isang dahon. Second is the margin, the surrounding edge of the blade. Vine, the slender structure branching from the midrib. Base, the lower part of the blade where midrib starts. Petiole, the stalk which attaches the blade to the stem. Stipule, leaf-like structure arising from the lower part of the petiole. And the last one is the midrib, the slender structure dividing the blade into right half and left half. Number 2 is the stem. Stem is the part of the plant that holds up other structures such as the leaves and the flowers. It conducts water in food substances through the xylem and phloem. Internal features of stem. First is the apical meristem, tissues at the tip of a stem capable of cell division, gives rise to stem elongation. Ang apical meristem ay responsible for the extension of the roots and shoots. Next, epidermis, outer layer of wax-coated cells that provides protection and covering. Cortex, primary tissues of a stem externally bound by the epidermis and internally by the phloem. So let's go to the vascular bundle of the stem. First is the xylem tissues distribute water and minerals from the roots up through the plant. Xylem provides the structural support in plants, becoming the woody tissue. Cambium tissues are the single-celled layer of meristematic dividing tissues that continually divides to form phloem tissues toward the outside and the xylem tissues toward the inside. Cell division of the cambium tissue adds width to the stem. Next is the phloem tissues or the inner bark. Distribute sugars throughout the plant. It's important to understand what happens when the phloem is blocked, as when a tree is girdled with a tie or rope. The stem often enlarges just above the blockage due to the sugars moving down from the leaves for distribution throughout the plant. Tissues below the blockage slowly starve. Roots die back, eventually leading to death of the plant. And the last one is the pith. Pith is the center of dicot plant stems. In some plants, the pith breaks down, forming a hollow stem. In older woody plants, the pith is filled with rigid xylem wood fiber. Monocot or dicot. Monocot and dicot stems differ in the arrangement of their vascular system. In monocot stems, the xylem and the phloem are paired in bundles, with bundles dispersed throughout the stem. In woody dicot plants, the rings grow to make a complete ring around the stem. Xylem growth makes the annual rings used to tell a tree's age. In woody dicot plants, water and mineral movement occurs in the more recent years of xylem rings. Drought reduces the size of the annual rings and thus the potential for water and nutrient movement. Multi-year droughts, with their corresponding reduction in xylem size, have long-term impacts on plant growth potential. So the left side of the picture is the herbaceous and the right side is the woody. Woody dicot stems are used in tree and shrub identification. Features to look at include the cross-section shape of the pith, the rounded, star or triangular, and whether the pith is solid, hollow, or chambered. Stem pith is used in plant identification. It may be solid, hollow, or chambered. In a cross-section, the pith may be rounded, triangular, or star-shaped. So let's proceed to external features of a stem. So the first one is the bud. Bud is a stem's primary growing point. Buds can be either leaf buds, vegetative, or flower buds, reproductive. These buds can be very similar in appearance, but flower buds tend to be plumper than leaf buds. Next is the terminal bud. Ito yung bud at the tip of a stem. Next is the lateral buds, grow from the leaf axils on the side of a stem. So in that given picture, you can see where lateral bud is. So next is the bud scales, a modified leaf protecting and covering a bud. Naked bud, a bud without a protective bud scale. Leaf scar, mark left on stem where leaf was attached. Next is the bundle scar, marks left in the leaf scar from the vascular tissue attachment. Lenticule, pores that allow for gas exchange. Next, terminal bud scale scars or annual growth rings. Marks left on stem from the terminal bud scales in previous years. Terminal bud scale scars are an external measure of annual growth. Therefore, they are important in assessing plant vigor. Next is the node, segment of stem where leaves and lateral buds are attached. Next is the internode, section of a stem between two nodes. And the last one is the bark, protective outer tissue that develops with age, used in woody plant identification.
Now, I am here to discuss you about the blood type. Before I start, I am Nurhannah B Ampuan, now discussing the blood type. Blood type is also used in plant identification. Common types of stem is a woody plants, shoot, twig, branch, trunk, water sprout, suckers, and canes. The first one is shoot. Shoot is the first year growth of woody or herbaceous plant. Twig is a wood stem less than 1 year old. Branch naman is the woody stem more than 1 year old. Then trunk is the main supports of a woody plants. Then water sport is a juvenile adventitious shoots arising on a branch, generally very rapid upright growth and poorly attached to the main limb. Sucker is a guinevere adventitious shoots arising from the roots, generally rapid upright growing. Canes, the last one is cane stems, relatively large and especially living for 1 to 2 years. The example is grouse, grapes, blackberries, and raspberries. Modified stems are the bud, taked underground stem with a fleshy storage, leaves attached at the base. Corn is the short, tanked underground stem with reduced, scary leaves. Crown is a compressed stem having a leaves and flower growing above and roots beneath. Stolon or runner is a horizontal above ground stems often forming roots and or at their tips or nodes. Rhizome is a horizontal underground stem typically forms roots and planets at tips of or nodes. Spore is a very complex fruit twigs found on some apples, pears, cherries, and ginkgo. Twin stems is a modified stems or for climbing. Tuber is an enlarged rhizome containing of store food. Then tuberous stem is short, flattened, modified storage of stem. Now, let's proceed to productive part. Number one is the flower. It's the reproductive organ of plants classified of angiosperms. All plants have means of corresponding structure for reproducing sexually. The basic found of the flower is reproduce seeds through sexual production. There are a structure of plants that are pestle, stigma, style, ovary, and ovules. Pestle is a central female organ of the flower. It is generally bowling spin and located in the center of the flower, while stigma is receive pollen, typically flattened and sticky, and style is the connective tissue between stigma and ovary. Ovary is contains of ovules or embryo sacs. Ovules is a unfertilized immature seeds. As you can see, there's a picture aside of this reproductive part. As you can see, there the structure of plants. Stamen. Stamen is a female flower organ, and there is a pollen organs, and filament is talking support others. Petals is usually colorful, modified leaves that make up flower. They may contain perfume and nectar glands. Sepals is a productive leaf enclosure for the flower buds, usually green, collectively called silax, sometimes highly colored like petals as in iris. Receptacle is the base of the flower, then pedicel is for flower stalk of an individual flower. Monocot or dicot flower. The number of the sepals and petals is plant use in plant identification. Dinodes is typically of a sepals and petals in four, fives or multiple series. Monocot naman is typically have flowers in three or multiple of trees. Terms of defining parts is the complete flower. Complete flower is containing sepals, petals, stamens, and pistil, while incomplete is lacks of those parts. Perfect flower is contained of male and female parts, while imperfect is the lack either male or female parts. Pestillate flower contains only female parts, while staminate flower contains of male only male parts. Now, the second one is fruit. Fruit involves for the maturing ovary following pollination and fertilization. Fruits can be either fleshy or dry. They contain one or more seeds. Fruit structure. Fruit structure is consists of carpels, where the ovule seeds developing the ovary wheel or precarp, which may be fleshy, as in the apples, or dry and hard, as in a corn. Some fruits have seeds, mature ovules, and enclosed with the ovary or apple, peaches, oranges, squash, and cucumbers. The peel of an orange and the peel pod, the sunflower shell, and the skin, flesh, and the pith of the peach are all derived from a precarp. Other fruit have seeds that are situated on the periphery as in a corn. Some fruits have seeds, mature ovules, and enclosed with the ovary or apple, peaches, oranges, squash, and cucumbers. The peel of an orange and the peel pod, the sunflower shell, and the skin, flesh, and the pith of the peach are all derived from a precarp. Other fruit have seeds that are situated on the periphery of the precarp or corn cob, a strawberry flesh. In apples, the ovary will becomes a fleshy part of the fruit. Notice the small fruit structure in the blossom. Fruit types. Fruit types are classified according to the arrangement from which they derived. There are fruit types: simple, aggregate, multiple, and accessory fruit. Some fruits develop from single ovary of a single flower and may be fleshy or dry. Principal fleshy fruit types are the berry, in which entire precarp is a soft and fluffy, and drupe, in which the outer layers may be fluffy, fibrous, or leathery, and the inner cap is the hardens into a pot or stone enclosing one more seeds. Aggregate fruit consists of mass of small drops or droplets, each of which develop from a separate ovary is a single flower. A multiflutes develops from ovaries or many flowers growing in a cluster. An accessory fruits contain of tissue derived from plants, and parts of other the ovary. The strawberry is actually a number of a tiny acnes, mescal seeds outside the central pulpy pit that is in large receptacle or base of the flower. The core of pineapple is also receptacle or stem tissue, it is known as the best accessory fruit is the pome, in which in fleshy edible portion is swollen stem tissue and the true fruit is the central core. And now let's proceed to the fruit growth stems. Bud develop on a temperate zone woody plants. Buds typically develop in midsummer of the previous year, while pollen is a transfer of pollen from male flower to the stigma of the female flower. Fertilization is the union of the pollen grain from the male flower with the egg cell in the female flower. Seed structure. Seeds are monocot and dicot differ in structure and method of emigrants. Monocot seed is the part of functions, then seed coat is formed from the wall of embryo sac or mother tissue. Endosperm is food supply containing three sets of chromosomes, or two from the mother and one from the father. Embryo is the immature plant. Cytoledon is a seed leaf. Plumule is a shoot seed or corm. Example of it is the corn. Radicle is root. As you can see, there is an example beside on it, and it is called cross section of the monocot seed, and that's the corn. Example of it is the corn. Dicot seed. Dicot seed is a part of function. The seed coat is formed from embryo sac wall endosperm tissue during development, and endosperm stops dividing and it's absorbed into the embryonic tissue. While embryo is an immature plant, cytoledon is the food storing seed leaf, plumule is shoot, hyposotoil is stem, radicle is shoot. The example is as you can see, it's an example of cross section of dicot seed is a bean. As you can see there the example of as you can see there's example of seed coat, cytoledon, plumule, hydrosotile, and radicle. Root system. Root system are beginning of the vascular system, pipeline that moves water and mineral from soil up to the leaves and fruits. Roots anchor and support plants, anchor and support its plants. Root structure uh, is have two types, epidermis and root hair. The outer layer of cell is it called epidermis, while absorptive and unicellular extension of the epidermal cells of a root is the root hairs.
So the next one is the cortex. The cortex is the primary tissues of a root bound on the outside of the epidermis and on the inside of the endodermis. In a carrot, it also becomes a storage organ. And also we have the endodermis. The endodermis is a single layer of a cell in a root that separates the cortex tissues from the pericycle. And also we have the pericycle. It is a layer of cells immediately inside the endodermis. Branches roots arise from the pericycle. Moving on, we have the vascular system. In vascular system, we have the phloem tissue, xylem tissue, zone of maturation, and zone of elongation. So first is the phloem tissue. The phloem tissue conducts products of photosynthesis from leaves throughout plant, including down the roots. Next is the xylem tissue. This conducts water and minerals up from the roots up through the plant. Next is a zone of maturation. This is a pipeline section of the roots, conducting water and nutrients from the root hairs up to the stems. And the last but not the least is a zone of elongation. This is the area where new cells are enlarging. And also below, we have the pictures of the cross-section of roots and the lateral view of root. Next up is we have the meristematic zone. In this, we have the root tip meristem and the root cup. First is the root tip meristem. It is a region of cell division that supports root elongation, and it is found at the root tips just behind the root cap. And then we have the root cup. It's a thimble-shaped group of thick-walled cells at the root tip, serves as the hard hat to push through soil. And also we have here the different types of roots. First one is the fibrous, the taproot, the combination, adventitious roots, aerial roots, lateral roots, sinker roots, and also the storage or tuberous root. So we're finally done with the lesson 8.1, and we're going to proceed to the lesson 8.2 that tackles about plant growth and development. So first off is the photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process of turning the energy of sunlight into chemical energy from the raw products of carbon dioxide and water. This process is necessary to sustain nearly all forms of life. One of the major differences between plants and animals on Earth is the ability of plants to eternally manufacture their own food. To produce food for itself, a plant requires energy from sunlight, carbon dioxide from air, and water from the soil. If any of these ingredients is lacking, photosynthesis or food production will stop. If any factor is removed for a long period of time, the plant will die. Photosynthesis is capable of any green plant tissue. Chloroplast is this cell contains the green pigment called chlorophyll, which traps the light energy. However, leaves are generally the site of most food production due to their special structure. The internal tissue contains cells with abundant chloroplast in an arrangement that allows easy movement of water and air. The protective upper and lower epidermis layers of the leaf include many stomata that are opening the leaf formed by two specialized guard cells on either side. Guard cells regulate movement of the gases. The lower epidermis of the leaf normally contains the largest percentage of stomata. So this picture shows how photosynthesis happens in a plant, or specifically in a leaf. The photosynthesis is divided into two separate reactions known as the light and dark reactions. So first off, we have the light reaction. The light reaction takes place when light is present, but the dark reaction does not require light. The whole process is begun by light reacting with pigments in the leaf that causing the splitting of water molecules. This is called the photolysis or the Hill reaction, which is not completely understood. This reaction produced three products. And also we have the dark reaction. This reaction does not require light. This part of the photosynthesis process is called the Calvin cycle. With one cycle of this reaction, 3 carbon atoms are fixed or placed in a sugar molecule. This pathway is called C3 photosynthesis. Another dark reaction pathway is called C4 photosynthesis because 4 carbons are fixed or placed in a sugar molecule each time the cycle is completed. The C4 photosynthesis pathway is what occurs in most monocots or grasses. This is a more efficient pathway and allows grasses to grow faster than broadleaf plants. The CAM photosynthesis or crassulacean acid metabolism is a direct reaction type found in many cactus, succulents, bromeliads, and orchids as well as a few other plants. CAM photosynthesis is similar to C4 photosynthesis. So we have the picture of how the light reaction and dark reactions happen in a photosynthesis. Plant converts the energy from light into simple sugar such as glucose. This food may be converted back to water and carbon dioxide, releasing the stored energy through a process called respiration. Photosynthesis is dependent on the availability of light. The intensity of photosynthesis increases as the sunlight increases. Water plays an important role in photosynthesis in several ways. Carbohydrates made during photosynthesis are of value to the plant when they are converted into energy. This energy is used in the process of building new tissues. The chemical process by which sugars and starches produced by photosynthesis are converted into energy. It is also similar to the burning of wood or coal to produce heat or energy. And lastly, we have the transpiration. It is a process by which a plant loses water. This primarily through leaf stomata. Transpiration is necessary for mineral transport from the soil to the plant, for the cooling of the plant through evaporation, to move sugars and plant chemicals, and for the maintenance of turgor pressure. The amount of water lost from the plant depends on several environmental factors such as the temperature, humidity, and wind or air movement. So that's it for the lesson 8, and thank you for watching.